The night sky looked endless, a black ocean scattered with silver sparks. Ethan Hayes sat strapped in the worn seat of the cargo shuttle Aurora. His eyes were heavy, but he kept them open. The ship carried supplies and data cores, nothing heroic, yet the mission paid well. He was already thinking of the quiet drink he would have when he landed on the next station. Then the warning lights flared red. A sharp alarm shrieked through the cabin. The control panels blinked like angry stars. System failure, the ship's voice repeated in a cold, flat tone. Ethan's heart hammered. He grabbed the controls. "Come on, stay with me," he muttered. The ship shuddered as if a giant hand had shaken it. Gravity shifted. A boom echoed through the metal walls, followed by the smell of burning wires. Sparks flew from the console. Ethan felt the sudden lurch of freefall as the shuttle spun. He fought the controls, but the screen showed a planet below. Large violet clouds swirling like bruises across its surface. The shuttle dropped toward it. His stomach turned to ice. "I'm not dying out here," he whispered. A deafening crash tore through the cabin. The harness cut into his shoulders as the ship broke apart. He heard metal scream and then silence except for the roar of wind. The world went black. When Ethan opened his eyes, cold stone pressed against his cheek. He lay on the ground, barely able to move. Above him stretched a strange sky. A deep violet streaked with pale blue clouds. 2 moons glowed faintly, one small and sharp, the other wide like a pearl. His head throbbed. He touched it and felt dried blood. His left arm burned with pain. Around him lay twisted pieces of the shuttle, smoke curling upward in thin, sad trails. The air smelled sweet and sharp like crushed flowers mixed with iron. "Ship?" he croaked, though no one could hear. His voice felt too small for the vast forest around him. He tried to stand. The ground tilted and he fell back with a grunt. His lungs ached and every breath was a knife. He sat still, forcing air in and out. "I need water," he thought. "I need help." The forest was alive with a soft glowing light. Trees rose high and wide, their bark smooth and dark as glass. From the branches hung bright blue pods that pulsed gently like living lanterns. Strange insect calls echoed, long notes that rose and fell like a flute. He could almost believe he was dreaming. He wasn't. Hours passed in a blur of pain and silence. He tore a strip from his torn sleeve and tied it around his bleeding arm. His stomach growled, but he had no food. Every sound in the forest made him tense. The rustle of leaves, the distant rumble of something large moving through the dark. When the sun, or whatever light ruled this world, faded, the air grew colder. The blue pods glowed brighter, casting ghostly light over the wreckage. Ethan tried to stay awake. He wanted to build a signal beacon, but his hands shook too hard. He pressed his back against a tree and listened. Then he heard it, a low hum, almost like singing. Ethan's eyes snapped open. The sound grew clearer, a melody that wrapped around the air itself. Shadows shifted beyond the trees. He tried to stand but fell to his knees. "Who's there?" he called, his voice weak. From the darkness, a figure emerged. At first he thought it was a trick of the light. The figure was tall and slender, skin silver like polished stone. 2 golden eyes glowed softly, catching the light of the pods. A long white mantle floated around her like mist. She held a staff tipped with a crystal that shone faint blue. Ethan's breath caught. An alien. He knew it in his bones. The being stepped closer, each movement smooth and careful. The staff hummed, matching the melody he had heard. Her eyes held no fear, only quiet focus. She knelt beside him, her face close enough for him to see faint patterns on her skin, lines that shimmered like starlight. He tried to speak, but only a rasp came out. "Help, please." The alien tilted her head, listening. She placed a cool hand on his forehead. The pain in his arm eased slightly, as if her touch carried warmth and light. "You are safe," she said. The words were slow and accented, but clear. His eyelids grew heavy. Relief washed through him like a tide. He wanted to ask who she was, how she spoke his language, but the questions drifted away. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him again was her golden gaze, steady and bright, a light in the violet night. Warm light touched Ethan's face before he even opened his eyes. It felt gentle, like sunlight after a storm. For a moment he thought he was home, lying in his small apartment on Earth. But the air smelled different, sweet and cool, with a faint metallic edge. He forced his eyes open. He lay on a soft bed made of woven silver fibers that shone in the glow of floating crystals. The walls of the room curved like the inside of a seashell, smooth and pearly white. Thin ribbons of blue light pulsed along the edges, beating like a slow heart. Ethan tried to sit up. Pain shot through his arm and ribs. He groaned and fell back. A quiet voice spoke. "Do not move too fast. Your body is still healing." Ethan turned his head. The silver-skinned being from the forest stood beside him. She wore a long white mantle with faint blue patterns that shifted like moving water. Her golden eyes glowed softly, warm and steady. In her hands she held a bowl of clear liquid that shone like melted stars. "You," his voice cracked. "You saved me." "I am Sarah," she said, her accent smooth but careful. "I am a healer of my people. Your vessel burned. I found you before the night hunters did." "Night hunters?" The words chilled him, but he pushed the thought aside. "Thank you," he said. "Really? I thought I was done for." Sarah dipped a slender cloth into the glowing liquid and pressed it gently against his injured arm. The cloth hummed with soft energy. A soothing warmth spread through his skin, easing the sharp ache. "This will help," she said. "Your bones were broken. I used crystal threads to mend them." "You must rest for many cycles," Ethan blinked. "Cycles? Your world calls them days, yes?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, days." Sarah gave a small smile, a movement of lips so graceful it almost didn't seem human. "Then you will need many days." For hours, Ethan drifted in and out of sleep. Each time he woke, Sarah was near, mixing glowing herbs, checking the crystal threads on his arm, or humming a song that made the room feel calm. Sometimes he asked questions. Sometimes she answered. "What is this place?" he asked once, his voice weak. "A sanctuary," Sarah replied. "A healing hall for travelers and wounded ones. It is hidden from the sky, safe from the storms. Do you live here alone?" Her golden eyes lowered for a moment. "Yes, I was chosen to guard this hall. My people travel the stars, but someone must stay to care for those who fall." Ethan studied her face. There was no sadness in her voice, yet something in her stillness felt lonely. One cycle later, he managed to sit up on his own. The soft bed sank under his weight. His arm no longer burned, though a faint glow remained along the mended bone. Sarah approached with a bowl of steaming broth that smelled like honey and spice. "You heal quickly," she said. "Maybe it's your medicine," he replied with a small grin. She tilted her head, eyes bright. "It is your will to live." "The body listens to the heart," Ethan laughed softly. "Then my heart is stubborn." Sarah sat across from him, the long mantle pooling around her like mist. For a while they ate in silence. The broth warmed him, chasing away the chill of fear he hadn't noticed still clinging to him. Finally he said, "You speak my language." "How?" "My kind learn many tongues. We listen to the stars. Your words are not strange to us." He shook his head in quiet wonder. "You make it sound easy." "It is not easy," she said, and there was a playful spark in her voice. "But it is important." Later, when the crystals dimmed to signal night, Ethan asked a question that had been growing in his mind. "Why did you help me? You didn't even know me." Sarah stood by the wall, her fingers tracing the glowing ribbons of light. "Because life is precious. Because no one should face the dark alone. My duty is to heal." Her simple answer carried a weight that made Ethan's chest tighten. Back on Earth, people helped each other, yes, but this was different. She had risked herself for a stranger from another world. "You saved my life," he said softly. She turned to face him, golden eyes catching the dim light. "Yes, and now you live." The way she said it, calm and certain, filled the room like a quiet promise. Over the next days, they spoke more. Ethan told her about Earth, about the rolling oceans, the music of city streets, the smell of rain on concrete. Sarah listened with quiet attention, asking gentle questions. "Do your people sing to heal?" she asked once. "Not exactly," he said. "We sing for love, for joy, for grief. Sometimes to feel alive." Sarah nodded. "That is healing too." She told him about her world, where cities floated above rivers of light and people sailed between stars in ships woven from crystal. She spoke of long journeys in the silence of space, of duties carried across generations. Her words painted pictures he could almost see, the shimmer of alien skies, the hum of ancient songs. With each story, the space between them felt smaller, but even as comfort grew, Ethan felt a pull in his chest. Memories of home returned, his sister waiting in a small house near the sea, the taste of earth air, the sound of waves. He longed to see them again, to tell them he was alive. One evening, While Sarah checked the healing threads on his arm, he whispered, "I need to find a way to contact my people." Sarah paused, her golden eyes steady. "Your people are far across the dark." "The distance is great, I know," he said. "But I have to try." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "When you are strong enough, we will speak of the sky." Her voice held something he couldn't name, something gentle, but also heavy, as if she carried a thought she did not share. That night, as the healing hall grew quiet, Ethan lay awake. The violet sky beyond the doorway shimmered with twin moons. He felt both grateful and uneasy. Sarah had saved him, cared for him, shared her world, but a question echoed in his mind. What will she ask of me in return? The thought lingered like a shadow as the soft light of the crystals pulsed around him, and Sarah's quiet humming filled the air like a lullaby from another universe. The days in the healing hall drifted like slow waves. Ethan's strength returned bit by bit. He could walk now, though his legs still felt weak. The crystal threads around his arm glowed faintly, a soft reminder of the night that had almost ended his life. Sarah remained close, moving with quiet grace as she prepared herbs or adjusted the blue lights along the walls. Sometimes she hummed a tune that made the air feel warm, like the sound of a hidden stream. Ethan often watched her while pretending to rest. She seemed carved from moonlight, tall and slender, her silver skin shining under the crystal glow. But what drew him most were her eyes, golden, steady, carrying a depth he could not name. One evening, as the two moons rose outside the shell-shaped hall, Ethan followed her to the balcony. From there, the forest stretched in endless violet shadows. Soft blue pods glimmered like fallen stars. A breeze carried the scent of unknown flowers and something faintly sweet. "It's beautiful," Ethan said, leaning on the curved railing. "I've never seen a sky like this." Sarah stood beside him, her mantle stirring in the wind. "This is the quiet hour," she said, "when the world listens." They stayed silent, listening to the soft night sounds, the distant call of birds, the gentle hum of glowing insects. Ethan broke the silence. "I think I'll always remember this place." Sarah turned toward him. "And will you remember me?" He smiled faintly. "How could I forget the person who saved my life?" Her golden eyes searched his face. Something unreadable passed through them. "Among my people," she said softly, "to give life is to share life." Ethan tilted his head. "Share life?" "It is a bond," Sarah explained, her voice like a calm river. "When a healer draws a soul back from the edge, that soul becomes part of theirs. It is more than gratitude, it is a joining." A slow, uneasy warmth spread through Ethan's chest. "A joining? You mean friendship?" Sarah shook her head. "Deeper than friendship. When I saved you, I offered my spirit. By our law, you are now my mate, forever." The words landed like a quiet thunder. Ethan blinked. "Mate, you mean like marriage?" "It is more than what your people call marriage," she said. "It is a promise that two hearts walk the same path. You belong with me." Ethan stepped back, his pulse quickening. "Sarah, I didn't know. No one told me. I never agreed to something like that." Her golden eyes did not waver. "The vow is not spoken, it is felt. The life we share makes it true." "I'm grateful you saved me," Ethan said carefully. "But I have a life back on Earth. Family, friends. I can't just stay here forever." A shadow crossed Sarah's face as if a cloud passed over a sun. "You would leave," she whispered. "After I gave you breath again?" "It's not about leaving you," he said quickly. "It's about going home. I didn't ask to be part of a vow. I didn't know this would mean anything like that." Sarah turned away, mantle whispering in the wind. For a long moment she said nothing. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, almost trembling. "Humans," she said, "do not understand the cost of saving a life. Perhaps I was foolish to hope." The words cut through Ethan like glass. "Sarah, no," he said, stepping closer. "You weren't foolish." She raised a hand, stopping him. "Your heart is elsewhere. I see it now." They stood in heavy silence. The forest sang softly around them, but it felt far away. Ethan wanted to reach for her, to explain that he respected her more than anyone he'd met among the stars. But he couldn't promise what she wanted. He couldn't lie about his need to go home. "Sarah," he said finally, "what you did for me, I'll never forget it. You saved my life. That means more than I can say. But I can't belong to someone because of a rule I never knew." She faced him again. In the moonlight, her golden eyes shone like quiet fire. You speak of rules. I speak of hearts. Do you not feel the bond between us? Ethan hesitated. He did feel something, an invisible thread pulling at his chest when she was near. But was it love? Was it gratitude? He couldn't tell. I feel something, he admitted, but it has to be my choice. Where I come from, love isn't a debt. Sarah studied him for a long time as if searching for a path inside his words. Then she lowered her gaze. Choice, she said softly, almost to herself. Your kind speaks of choice as if it is air. It is, he said gently. Without choice, love is just a cage. The balcony grew quiet except for the distant song of the glowing insects. Sarah wrapped her mantle around her shoulders, her movements slower now, almost fragile. I gave you life, she said, her voice barely a whisper, and in my heart that meant we would share it. But I will not force you. Relief and sorrow twisted together in Ethan's chest. Sarah, I do not speak, she said, holding up her hand. Not tonight. Let the moons witness our silence. They stood side by side as the twin moons climbed higher, their light falling like soft rain. Ethan wanted to reach for her hand, but he stayed still, afraid that any move would break the fragile calm. Later, when he lay on the silver bed, sleep would not come. The image of Sarah's eyes stayed with him, bright and endless, filled with a longing he could not name. He felt the strange pull again, a thread that tied him to her no matter how far he might travel. He turned on his side and stared at the glowing ribbons along the wall. What am I to her? He wondered. And what is she to me? Outside, the violet forest whispered in the night, carrying a song that sounded almost like a question, almost like a promise. Morning arrived as a soft silver light that crept across the healing hall. Ethan woke to the quiet hum of the crystals and the faint scent of herbs. For a moment he forgot the heavy words Sarah had spoken the night before. Then memory returned like a weight on his chest. Mate. Forever. The words echoed in his mind. He pushed himself up, muscles stiff but stronger each day. Outside the curved doorway, the twin moons were fading into a pale sky. The forest glowed with dew, blue pods shimmering like small lanterns. Sarah stood on the balcony, her white mantle drifting in the breeze. She looked like a statue carved from morning light. Ethan hesitated, unsure if he should approach, but the silence between them felt too wide to ignore. He stepped onto the balcony. Sarah, he said softly. She turned, her golden eyes calm yet distant. You rested well? I did, he answered, though his voice held a rough edge. We need to talk. A quiet pause stretched between them. The breeze carried the smell of sweet flowers and cold stone. About last night, Ethan began. About the bond you spoke of. I can't stay here forever. I have a family back on Earth. People who will be searching for me. I have to try to go home. Sarah's face did not change, but her eyes darkened like a sunset cloud. Home? She repeated slowly, as if testing the shape of the word. You believe your home is still waiting. It is, Ethan said. They need to know I'm alive. She turned toward the violet forest, her voice low. I saved you from death. I risked the wrath of the hunters and the storms. Our law says we are bound, yet you speak of leaving as if the bond is nothing. It's not nothing, Ethan said quickly. What you did for me, I owe you my life. But a bond like marriage or mating, that has to be a choice. My choice. Sarah's shoulders stiffened. You humans hide behind the word choice as if it excuses every wound. Her voice sharpened like a crystal edge. Is my heart so easy to cast aside? Ethan winced. No, you mean more to me than I can explain. But love isn't a chain. You gave me life, yes, but that doesn't mean you own it. Her golden eyes flashed. Own? I would never own you. I speak of joining, of walking together. Your people speak of freedom, but your soul calls to mine. Can you deny you feel it? He looked away. He did feel it, an invisible pull whenever she was near, a warmth that filled the quiet moments. But he couldn't let that feeling trap him between duty and desire. I feel something, he admitted, but I can't promise forever. Not like this. Sarah's breath caught, a soft sound of pain. She turned sharply, mantle sweeping behind her, and walked back into the hall. The rest of the day passed in heavy silence. Sarah prepared herbs and tended the glowing crystals, but her movements were brisk, almost mechanical. She spoke only when necessary. A simple eat when she brought him food, a quiet rest when she checked his arm. Ethan tried to help with small tasks, sorting dried leaves, arranging crystal shards, but she kept her gaze on her work, never on him. The distance between them felt wider than the starless void outside. He wanted to bridge it. He wanted to tell her how much her kindness meant, how her songs had soothed the fear in his heart. But every time he opened his mouth, the words felt too small. By late afternoon, he stepped outside alone. The violet forest stretched endlessly, glowing in the fading light. He thought of home, his sister waiting near the sea, his old friends, the life he'd left behind. The ache to return grew stronger, but so did the ache of leaving Sarah. Why does this hurt so much? He wondered. As twilight fell, Ethan began gathering scraps from the shuttle wreck. He planned to build a beacon, a small signal that might reach passing ships. His hands worked slowly, his mind heavy with conflict. Footsteps approached behind him. You would leave without farewell? Sarah's voice carried through the cool air. He turned. She stood among the glowing trees, her golden eyes brighter than the pods around them. I wasn't going to leave without saying goodbye, he said carefully. I just need to try. If I don't build a signal, no one will ever know I survived. Sarah stepped closer, her mantle brushing the ground. And what of the life I saved? Do you think I risked everything only to watch you vanish into the dark? Her voice trembled, not with anger, but with something deeper. Fear. Ethan lowered the half-built beacon. I don't want to hurt you, he said. But this isn't about debt. It's about who I am. I need to see my world again. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply. My people do not understand this hunger for elsewhere. When we bond, we stay. We are not made to lose, I know, he whispered. But I was born to a different sky. Sarah opened her eyes. Tears, bright as molten gold, clung to her lashes. Then perhaps it is I who must learn, she said, voice barely above a whisper. They stood beneath the rising moons, the night alive with soft blue light. Ethan felt the ache of choice pressing on him. Love and freedom, duty and hope all pulling in opposite directions. I can't promise the future, he said finally. But I can promise this, I will never forget you. You're part of me now, no matter where I go. Sarah studied him, her gaze deep as starlit water. After a long silence, she stepped closer. If you must follow the call of your own sky, she said slowly, then let me walk beside you until the path divides. Ethan nodded, throat tight. I'd like that. She reached out, brushing her cool fingers against his cheek. Then we will share the present, she said, even if the future is unknown. That night they sat together outside the healing hall, watching the twin moons climb high above the glowing forest. No more words were needed. The silence between them was no longer heavy but full of quiet understanding. For the first time since the crash, Ethan felt both the weight of his own freedom and the warmth of a bond that could never truly break. The next morning, the air smelled of rain and silver leaves. Ethan woke early, long before the twin suns climbed above the violet forest. Sarah still slept on a soft mat near the glowing wall, her silver skin faintly lit by the blue crystals. Ethan sat up slowly, listening to her gentle breathing. He felt the strange pull in his chest, the quiet bond that had grown between them. But the thought of Earth pressed harder. His sister's laughter, the sound of ocean waves, the promise of home all called to him like a distant song. He knew Sarah cared for him. He cared for her too, yet each day he stayed felt like another door closing on the life he had left behind. I have to try, he told himself. He slipped outside into the cool dawn. The forest shimmered with dew. Blue pods hung heavy, glowing like small moons. Ethan followed a narrow path to the crash site, where pieces of the Aurora still lay broken among the roots. The wreck smelled of burned metal. Sharp edges caught the pale light as he climbed over the scattered panels. He searched for anything useful. Power cells, fragments of communication gear, wires that still held a spark. Hours passed while he worked. Sweat ran down his neck. His arm ached where the crystal threads had once glowed, but he pushed through the pain. With careful hands, he pieced together a small beacon, just a simple frame of metal rods, a cracked energy cell, and the transmitter core he'd pulled from the cockpit. When the last connection snapped into place, the beacon hummed faintly. A tiny light blinked red. It might not reach far, but it was something. A hope. The forest grew brighter as the suns climbed higher. Ethan wiped his brow and stepped back from the beacon. He imagined a rescue ship answering the signal, a voice from Earth breaking through the static. He imagined walking onto that ship, breathing air that smelled like home. A soft sound behind him shattered the thought. You would leave without a word? Sarah's voice was low but sharp, like a string pulled too tight. Ethan spun around. She stood at the edge of the clearing, her white mantle glowing against the dark trees. The golden light in her eyes burned brighter than he had ever seen. I wasn't going to leave without saying goodbye, he said quickly. I just need to send a signal. Someone might be searching for me. Sarah stepped forward, each movement smooth but heavy with unspoken feeling. And when they find you, what then? You fly back across the stars and vanish from this world and from me. I have to try, Ethan said. It's my life. I can't stay here forever. Her golden eyes softened, but sorrow darkened them like a quiet storm. And what of the life I gave you? Do you think I saved you so you could disappear into the dark? It's not like that, he said. You saved me, yes. But that doesn't mean I belong to you. It means I'm alive because of you. That's different. Sarah's voice trembled, though she tried to keep it steady. In my people's way, saving a life is sharing a soul. To let you go is to tear a part of myself away. Ethan lowered the beacon. He felt the weight of her words press against his chest. I don't want to hurt you, but if I don't at least try to reach my world, I'll never know if they're out there looking. I'll never know if my sister is waiting. Sarah came closer until only a step separated them. The air between them felt warm and alive. Do you think your sister's love is greater than the bond we share? She asked softly. I don't know, he said, his voice almost a whisper. I only know it's a love I promised long before I met you. She looked down, her silver hair falling forward like a curtain of light. My people do not know how to lose, she said. When we bind, we stay. That is how we survive the endless sky. And my people survive by choosing, Ethan said. We choose to stay, to love, to go home. Without choice, love is just a cage. The words hung in the air. Sarah closed her eyes, and for a long moment neither of them spoke. The forest hummed softly as if it too waited for her answer. At last Sarah opened her eyes. Golden tears glimmered like molten sunlight. I feared this, she said quietly. I feared you would hear the call of another sky. Ethan reached out and gently touched her arm. I care about you, Sarah, more than I ever thought I could care for someone I met only days ago. But if I stay because I'm afraid to hurt you, that isn't love. That's a prison for both of us, her breath caught. And if you leave, will you remember me? Always, he said. You saved my life. You changed it. I'll carry you in every step no matter where I go. Sarah turned to the half-built beacon. She studied it for a long time, then knelt beside it. Her fingers, long and graceful, touched the cracked energy cell. A soft hum passed through the metal as if her very touch carried light. This will need more power, she said finally. Ethan blinked. You're helping me? She looked up, golden eyes calm but full of quiet ache. If you must call across the dark, then I will help. Better to help than to watch you struggle alone. A lump formed in his throat. Sarah, do not thank me, she said, her voice gentle now. I do this because I care, not because I accept the leaving. They worked side by side as the suns began to set. Sarah guided the energy flow with her crystal staff, weaving strands of light into the circuit. The beacon's core glowed brighter, steady and strong. When it finally pulsed with a clear blue signal, Ethan felt both triumph and sorrow. It's sending, he said quietly. Yes, Sarah answered. The stars will hear you now. They stood together as the sky darkened to violet. The beacon's blue light flickered like a small star, a fragile hope against the endless night. Ethan glanced at Sarah. Her face was calm, but her golden eyes held the reflection of the beacon, bright, beautiful, and full of silent questions. He wanted to tell her everything he felt, the gratitude, the strange love, the fear of losing her. Instead, he simply said, Whatever happens, you are part of me now. Sarah placed a cool hand over his heart. And you are part of me, she whispered. Even if the stars take you away. The beacon pulsed through the night like a tiny star fallen to the ground. Ethan and Sarah sat beside it while the two moons climbed high. The soft hum of the signal filled the quiet forest. Ethan kept his eyes on the sky. Each blink of blue light carried a message he could almost feel in his chest. I am here. I'm alive. Come find me. He wondered how long it would take for a rescue ship to notice. Hours, days, or maybe no one was listening at all. Sarah wrapped her silver mantle tighter around her shoulders. You keep watching the sky, she said. Her voice was soft, almost hidden by the whisper of leaves. Does it speak back to you? Ethan gave a small, sad smile. Not yet. But I'm hoping. They sat in silence for a while. The forest smelled of damp earth and glowing fruit. Somewhere in the distance, a creature sang a low, lonely note. When the first pale sun rose, Ethan checked the beacon again. The signal was strong. He felt a spark of hope, but it mixed with a deep ache. Each minute brought him closer to an answer, and closer to leaving Sarah. He turned and found her watching him. Golden light swirled in her eyes, brighter than the dawn. I cannot stop thinking, she said slowly. If a ship comes, you will climb aboard and be gone. And this place, this bond, will turn into a shadow. Ethan stepped closer. I don't want it to fade. I want you to stay in my life no matter where I am. Sarah tilted her head as if trying to understand. Your people carry love across the stars without touch? Without the nearness of breath? We try, Ethan said. We send messages, we call, we visit. Love can travel if we keep it alive. She looked down at her hands. My kind does not know how to love at a distance. We grow roots in each other like the crystal trees. To leave is to break. Ethan gently took her hand. Maybe you can learn. Maybe we both can. They spent the day gathering fruit and fresh water. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they simply worked side by side, their movements quiet and careful. Ethan told her about Earth, about warm rain on city streets, the smell of baked bread, and his sister's laugh when they played music together. Sarah listened with wide eyes, her silver skin catching the light. In return, she told him of her people. Long ago, her tribe sailed between stars on living ships, guided by song. They settled on this planet when their last ship grew tired and fell asleep in the sky. We promised to care for each other, she said. That is why I saved you. You became part of that promise. The weight of her words settled in his chest. He realized again how deep their bond had grown in so few days. As evening fell, they returned to the clearing. The beacon's blue glow painted the trees in ghostly light. Ethan checked the transmitter. The signal still pulsed steady and strong. Sarah stood beside him, quiet as the first stars appeared. Finally, she said, what if they never come? Ethan exhaled slowly. Then I stay. But not because you hold me. Only because it's my choice. Sarah's golden eyes shimmered. You would choose to stay? I would choose you, Ethan said, voice low. But I need to know I had the chance to go home first. That matters to me. She touched his face lightly, her cool fingers brushing his cheek. Your heart is brave. It walks two worlds at once, night deepened. They lay near the beacon, close enough to feel each other's warmth. Ethan stared at the endless sky. He wondered if a rescue ship might be racing through the stars at that very moment. Sleep came in pieces. Strange dreams carried him. His sister waving from a distant shore, Sarah singing to the stars. The beacon's light calling like a heartbeat. A sharp sound woke him near dawn. A high, quick beep from the beacon. He sat up fast. The light on the panel flashed a new color. Green. Sarah stirred. What is it? It caught a signal, Ethan said, his own heart racing. Someone heard us, the beacon crackled. A faint voice came through, broken by static. Aurora crewman. Identify, signal received. Ethan's breath caught. The sound was weak but real. This is Ethan Cade, he shouted. I'm alive. Coordinates follow. He gave the numbers with shaking hands, repeating them until the voice confirmed. The connection faded, but the message was clear. A ship was coming. He turned to Sarah. Her face was unreadable, a quiet mix of wonder and pain. They heard me, he whispered. A rescue team is on the way. Sarah's golden eyes shimmered in the dim light. So the stars call you back? Ethan felt the weight of both joy and sorrow. Yes, they'll be here soon. They spent the day in a gentle silence. Sometimes Sarah would speak of small things, plants that healed, rivers that sang. Sometimes Ethan would tell her about his sister again, how she liked to dance in summer storms. Each story felt like a gift, as if they were filling the hours with memories to keep. As the second night fell, Sarah finally said, When they come, will you walk away without looking back? Ethan shook his head. I'll look back always. She stepped closer, so close he could feel her steady breath. Then show me how your people say goodbye when they still carry love. Ethan hesitated, then wrapped his arms around her. She stiffened at first, then slowly rested her head against his chest. They stood together while the beacon hummed softly beside them. "This is how," he whispered. "We hold on for a moment and we remember." Sarah closed her eyes. "Then remember me, Ethan Cade. Remember the life we shared between suns." The dawn came soft and silver, the forest alive with gentle light. Ethan woke to the low hum of the beacon. Its blue glow seemed brighter, almost urgent. He turned and found Sarah sitting nearby, her golden eyes watching the sky as if she could read the future in its endless depths. "They will come soon," she said quietly. Her voice carried both peace and sorrow. Ethan nodded. His heart pounded heavy with hope and ache. Yes, any hour now. They packed the few things he would take: a strip of fruit for the journey, a small crystal from Sarah's garden, and the beacon itself to guide the rescue team. Each motion felt slow, as if the air itself wished to hold them in place. By late morning, a deep sound rolled across the forest, a low, distant hum that grew into a steady vibration beneath their feet. Birds of silver and green burst from the trees. The very leaves trembled. Ethan looked up. Through the violet clouds, a dark shape cut across the sunlit sky. It was sleek and bright, a ship of Earth design. His heart leaped. "They're here," he whispered. Sarah's face remained calm, but her hands tightened on the crystal staff she carried. "Your skykin have found you," she said. "The stars call you home." The ship lowered until it hovered above the clearing, thrusters bending the tall grass. A ramp extended with a hiss of air. Figures in silver suits stepped out, their helmets gleaming. Ethan recognized the blue insignia of the Earth Exploration Corps. One of the rescuers raised a hand. "Ethan Cade?" The voice came through a translator, crisp and human. "We received your signal. We're here to bring you home." Ethan swallowed. "That's me," he said, his voice breaking a little. The team moved closer. They checked the air, scanned the ground, and began to secure the site. The leader stepped forward. "You've been missing for weeks. We thought we'd lost you." Ethan glanced at Sarah. She stood silent, her silver form bright against the dark ship. Her golden eyes never left him. The leader followed his gaze. "Who is your companion?" "She saved my life," Ethan said firmly. "Her name is Sarah. Without her, I wouldn't be standing here." The rescuer nodded respectfully. "We owe her thanks." Sarah lowered her staff and stepped nearer to Ethan. "So this is the moment," she said softly. "Yes," he said. "But it doesn't mean the end." She tilted her head, silver hair shining like moonlight. "Your heart believes in paths that meet again?" "I have to believe," Ethan said, "because I want to see you again." Sarah touched the crystal threads that once healed him. "You will travel where I cannot follow, yet you will carry my light." He took her hand. "And you'll carry mine." The rescue leader called out, "We must depart soon. Storms are forming in the upper atmosphere." Ethan turned to Sarah. "I don't want this to be goodbye forever." She looked into his eyes. "Among my people, we do not speak of forever. We speak of the next meeting even if it waits beyond lifetimes." A tear slipped down Ethan's cheek. "Then until our next meeting." Sarah reached up and gently touched the tear, her cool fingers soft against his skin. "Until then, Ethan Cade." He stepped back reluctantly. The rescuers motioned toward the ramp. Ethan forced his feet to move. Each step felt like leaving a part of himself behind. At the base of the ship, he turned one last time. Sarah stood in the clearing, the breeze lifting her mantle like a silver flame. The blue beacon light reflected in her golden eyes, steady and bright. Ethan raised his hand. She mirrored the gesture, her own hand glowing faintly with the light of their bond. The ramp closed with a soft hiss. The ship lifted, the forest below shrinking into a wash of violet and green. Through a small viewport, Ethan watched until Sarah was only a glimmer of silver beneath the trees. Inside the cabin, the rescuer offered him water and a blanket. "You're safe now," they said. Ethan sipped the water but felt a different thirst inside him, a longing for the forest's quiet song, for the golden light in Sarah's eyes. "Are you all right?" the rescuer asked. Ethan nodded slowly. "I'm alive," he said. "Because of her." He reached into his pocket and touched the small crystal Sarah had given him. It pulsed faintly, warm against his palm, as if holding a piece of her spirit. Hours later, as the ship broke through the planet's atmosphere, stars opened before them like a sea of fire. Ethan pressed his forehead to the glass and whispered, I'll see you again. Far below, unseen by human eyes, Sarah stood beneath the twin moons. She watched the trail of light fade across the sky and placed a hand over her heart. In the quiet, she spoke words of her own people, a promise of meeting, a vow that love could travel through every shadow of space. Ethan closed his eyes. He could almost hear her voice in the endless dark, a soft echo carried by the stars themselves. He knew life on Earth would never be the same. A part of him would always belong to that violet world, to the alien doctor who had saved him and claimed his heart without chains.